I, 26F, have always known my mother had a favorite child, but I never thought she would announce it to our entire family, with me standing right next to her. It was supposed to be a happy family reunion. Everyone was there. My aunts, uncles, cousins. Even my grandmother flew in from Florida. The backyard was decorated with lights, and everyone was laughing and catching up. Then, my mother, Carol, stood up with her wine glass to make a toast. I just want to say how wonderful it is to have everyone here. Looking at my children, I have to say, my son David is the only one who has truly made me proud. The backyard went silent. Every single person turned to look at me. I was standing right there beside her, holding the cake I had baked for the reunion. My brother David stood on her other side, smiling like he had just won a prize. The humiliation burned through me like fire. My Aunt Martha looked horrified. My cousin Jake actually dropped his fork, but my mother just kept smiling, completely unaware of what she had just done to me in front of everyone I loved. She expected me to cry. She expected me to shrink away like I always had. She had no idea that her cruel words didn't break me. They just showed me exactly what I needed to do next. This wasn't the first time she had chosen David over me. It had been happening my entire life. When we were teenagers, David got full financial support for his business degree at a fancy private college. When I wanted to study graphic design, she told me it was a waste of money. She said art wasn't a real career. I had to work 2 jobs just to pay for community college while David lived in a nice dorm and joined a fraternity on her dime. When David turned 18, our parents bought him a brand new car with a big red bow on it. 2 years later, for my 18th birthday, I got David's old car that barely ran. When I asked why the difference, my mother said I should be grateful I got anything at all. David deserved the new car because he was going places. I was just going to community college. The differences, never stopped. David got money for spring breaks in Cancun. I got told to pick up extra shifts at work. David got a graduation party with 100 guests. I got a card in the mail because they were too busy attending David's job interviews to come to my ceremony. Every achievement I had was dismissed. Every achievement David had was celebrated like he had cured cancer. My mother loved telling everyone about David's incredibly successful tech startup. She would brag to anyone who would listen about how her brilliant son was changing the world with his innovative ideas. Meanwhile, she called my freelance graphic design business a cute little hobby. She never mentioned that I had built it from nothing. She never told anyone that I had major clients or that I was making real money. To her, David was the success story and I was the footnote. That public humiliation at the reunion was the final straw. For years, I had accepted my role as the family disappointment, but hearing those words in front of everyone I knew changed something in me. The shame burned away any love I had left. It was time to stop being their victim and start writing my own ending. I went home that night and started digging into David's company. If it was so successful, there would be records, financial statements, client testimonials, something to back up all the bragging. I used every research skill I had learned building my own business. I checked state records. I looked at business filings. I searched for online reviews. What I found shocked even me. The company was a complete disaster. It was drowning in debt. There were dozens of angry client complaints. Former employees had posted warnings online about not getting paid. The business was hemorrhaging money faster than water through a broken dam. But the most interesting discovery was in the financial records. There were constant cash deposits from a personal account, my mother's personal account. She had been secretly funding David's failure for years. Every time he came close to bankruptcy, she bailed him out. Every time employees threatened to sue for unpaid wages, she wrote a check. She had poured over $100,000 into keeping his lie alive, all while telling me I needed to be more grateful for the nothing I received. 2 months after the reunion, my mother called with exciting news. She was throwing a massive birthday party for David's 29th birthday. It would be at an expensive venue downtown. She had invited all the same people from the reunion plus David's business contacts. She wanted to celebrate his success, properly this time. Then came the real reason for her call. Clara, I need you to contribute $5,000 for David's birthday gift. It's actually an investment in his company's big expansion. This could really help both of you bond as siblings. Of course, Mom, I'd love to help my successful brother, I said sweetly. She was so shocked by my agreement that she stuttered her goodbye. She had no idea she had just walked into my trap. I spent the next week preparing everything. I gathered all the evidence I had found. Bank statements showing the debt, emails from David begging for more money, proof that he had spent the last investment on a luxury vacation to Bali instead of saving his company. But the best part was what I had done with that information. I quietly bought out David's biggest creditor. For pennies on the dollar, I now owned most of his company's debt. He just didn't know it yet. The birthday party was even fancier than the reunion. Crystal glasses and white tablecloths, a live band playing jazz. The same relatives who had witnessed my humiliation were all there, dressed in their finest clothes. My mother wore a new dress that probably cost more than my monthly rent. David wore a designer suit and kept checking his expensive watch. They both looked so proud of themselves. Halfway through dinner, my mother stood up to give a speech. She tapped her champagne glass for attention. I want to thank everyone for coming to celebrate my wonderful son, David. As I said at our reunion, he truly is the child who has made me most proud. His business success at such a young age shows what dedication and talent can accomplish. I couldn't be happier with the man he's become. She paused to smile at the crowd. I also want to give special thanks to his sister Clara, who has finally seen the light and made a generous contribution to her brother's bright future. It seems she's finally learning what family support really means. All eyes turned to me. This was my moment. Thank you, Mom. Since you mentioned it, I would actually love to say a few words about David's success. I stood up and walked to the front where I had already set up a projector. David looked confused. My mother looked pleased, probably thinking I was about to apologize for years of jealousy. You were so right at the reunion, Mom. David has made you incredibly proud. So proud that you've given him over $100,000 in the last 2 years just to keep his business from going under. I clicked the remote. The first slide appeared on the screen behind me. It was a detailed chart showing his company's massive debts and losses. The room gasped. This is what David's successful company actually looks like. $300,000 in debt, 27 client complaints filed with the state, 6 lawsuits from unpaid employees. I clicked again. The next slide showed copies of bounced checks and David's desperate emails begging for money. These are the emails David sent Dad begging for another loan last month. Notice the subject line that says, "Urgent, please don't tell Mom." It looks like Mom already knew, though, since she wrote the check the next day. David stood up, his face red. Clara, what are you doing? I'm celebrating your success, brother. Just like Mom wanted. I clicked again. Bank statements filled the screen. This shows where David spent the last investment Mom gave him. $15,000 at a resort in Bali, $5,000 on a new watch, $8,000 on bottle service at clubs, $0 on his business or employees. My mother's face had gone white. The entire room was silent except for the jazz band, who had stopped playing to watch the show. But here's the best part, I continued. You were also right about me, Mom. My little hobby has had an incredible year. In fact, it was so successful that last week I had enough money to buy something special. I clicked to the final slide. It was a legal document with my signature at the bottom. I bought out the debt from David's biggest lender. As of yesterday, I legally own 51% of his company. David, you're fired. I'm liquidating all assets immediately to pay myself back. David collapsed back into his chair. My mother grabbed the table for support. And Mom, since you co-signed all of David's fraudulent business loans, the bank will be coming after your assets next. I heard you put the house up as collateral for that last loan. I guess I'm not the only disappointment in the family anymore. I set the microphone down on the table. No one moved. No one spoke. My grandmother had her hand over her mouth. My Aunt Martha was recording everything on her phone. David looked like he might vomit. My mother's mouth was opening and closing, but no words came out. I picked up my purse and walked toward the door. Just before I left, I turned back to face them one more time. Thank you all for coming to this wonderful celebration. I'm sure David will remember this birthday forever. I walked out of that party and never looked back. My phone started ringing before I even reached my car. Mom, David, Dad, aunts, uncles, everyone. I blocked them all. Every single number, every social media account, every email address. They were done being part of my life. My revenge wasn't just about exposing their lies. It was about taking back the power they had stolen from me my entire life. For 26 years, they had made me feel worthless. They had convinced me I was the failure while they propped up David's lies with money that should have been shared equally. They had humiliated me in front of our entire family and expected me to accept it. Now they could deal with the consequences of their choices. David would have to get a real job for the first time in his life. My mother would have to explain to all her friends why she was selling her house. They would have to face the family members who had witnessed everything. They would have to live with the truth finally being exposed. As for me, I kept building my business. Without the constant negativity from my family, I flourished. My client base doubled within 6 months. I hired my first employees. I moved to a better apartment in a better neighborhood. I traveled to places I had only dreamed about. I lived the life I had always deserved but had been told I wasn't worthy of. Sometimes I hear updates through mutual acquaintances. David works at a cell phone store now. My mother had to move in with her sister Martha. They still blame me for everything that happened. They tell people I destroyed the family out of jealousy. They refuse to acknowledge that they destroyed themselves with their lies and favoritism. But I don't care what they say anymore. I know my worth now. It was never determined by their opinion of me. It was never less than David's. I was never the dyed disappointment they made me believe I was. I was just the daughter who refused to pretend their golden child was anything more than painted tin. The last time someone asked me about my family, I told them the truth. I said, I don't have one anymore. The person looked sad for me, like I had lost something precious, but I didn't lose anything. I finally gained my freedom. I gained my self-respect. I gained a life where I am the only one who decides my value. That birthday party was 2 years ago. I haven't spoken to any of them since. I heard David tried to start another company, but couldn't get funding. I heard my mother still tells people her daughter destroyed her life out of spite. I heard my father finally divorced her after learning about all the money she had hidden from him to give to David. None of that matters to me now. My business is thriving. I have real friends who value me. I have a life built on my own success, not someone else's failure. Every morning I wake up grateful that I finally had the courage to stand up for myself. That humiliation at the family reunion was the best thing that ever happened to me. It freed me from a prison I didn't even know I was in. My mother was right about one thing. David was the only one who made her proud. But she was wrong about something else. I wasn't a disappointment. I was just surrounded by people who couldn't see my worth. Now, I'm surrounded by people who can. And more importantly, I can finally see it myself.